Hi everyone, welcome to Gig Harbor, Washington, where the anchor all began. We are standing here in front of a net shed, and for those of you who don't know what a net shed is, our town is an old fishing community, and back in the day, the fishermen would come off the water and bring their boats in and bring their nets into these net sheds to be repaired and get equipped and just get a little rest off the water. So we thought, what a great analogy for the anchor where it first began is this place where women of all ages can come to gather and be together and be restored and be encouraged. So this month we are going to share an anchor moment with you. And an anchor moment is a time in your life when your faith has really been grounded and you've seen God at work for real. And we are thrilled that we are going to be able to share with you stories from women of all kinds of backgrounds and all ages, and our hope and prayer is that you would be encouraged.
Hey you guys, it's Lori Hein coming from my front porch with an anchor moment for today. I'm really excited to share with you guys some stuff that God has done in my life, and I hope that will be encouraging to you too. First, some information about me. I have been married for 21 years. I have two 15-year-old kids. So our house has been a little crazy during this COVID time that we are all home. I work as an area director for Young Life, as well as doing ministry and leadership coaching. So a lot of fun things that keep us busy here. I just want to go back and tell you a little bit about my faith journey. And actually my faith journey started before I even came to be on this earth. So my mom and dad met and got married in 3 months total. And so that's crazy. You don't really hear much about that happening nowadays, but I guess it was more common back in those days. Anyhow, they got married, and after they got married, my dad knew that my mom's faith was really important to her. And so he insisted that they go to church every Sunday. So they did. And so for 1 year, my dad sat in church with my mom and decided to give his life to Christ. And what that looked like for him is he believed in God. He had somewhat of a family that went to church and things like that, but it wasn't his own faith. And so he made it his own faith and came forward in church that Sunday and gave his life to Christ. Now, during this time, my parents were trying to have a baby, and many years went by before that happened. After my dad came to know the Lord, it was probably about another 5 or 6 years before I was born, and then miraculously 2 years later, my sister was born. And my mom always says to me that my dad needed that time to grow in his faith, to be the person and be the dad that he is today. And she needed to realize how faithful God is. Like when things don't maybe go the way that you think they are, when things take a lot longer in the process of life, that God is still faithful. And so I grew up in a family that talked a lot about God's faithfulness, a lot about how God has a plan for us. And my parents allowed my faith to develop on its own. So as a small child, I knew a lot about Jesus, gave my life to Christ, I would say, probably when I was like 4 years old. But it wasn't until I was about 15 years old at a Billy Graham crusade that I went forward and made it my own faith. Not just my parents' faith, but my own faith. And so through that time of walking with Jesus and getting to know him better, I have definitely had my ups and downs. And when I had to choose one anchor moment, it was really hard for me because you don't get to be my age without having a lot of anchor moments. A lot of times that we really have to cling to God and really trust and believe that he is real. So the one that I want to share with you today is probably the one that changed a lot of things in my life. Is probably the one that took the path that I was going and totally moved it to go in a different direction. And so I'm going to tell you about that. So I had a job that I absolutely loved. Things were going really, really well. Had 2 little kids at home. We were kind of keeping it all going at the same time. Ministry was great. And in my quiet time, which is just time that I'm just spending in my Bible and listening to what God has to say to me, I heard him say to my heart and my head, I heard him say, you're going to leave your job at the end of the school year. And it made absolutely no sense. Things were going so well. My family was thriving. And to hear God say that I was going to leave my job was really hard. It was really painful. And so I kind of sat with it for a couple of weeks. Like, did I hear that right? Like, it was so out of the blue, it had to be God, right? It wasn't like something I'd come up with on my own. It was so out of the blue, it had to be God. And so I was like, oh, God, why are you asking me to leave my job? I mean, I really love this. So a couple of weeks later, I talked to my husband, and I finally decided maybe I should tell him what God had told me. And I told him, I feel like God has asked me to leave my job, but I don't know why. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And I know things are going really well. And he was like, are you sure you heard that right? And I was like, I think I did. I think I did. I waited a couple more weeks before I told my boss. And I told him, I think God has asked me to leave my job. And he was like, what? That makes no sense at all. I'm like, I know. But I know what I know that I know. I mean, I know that he has said that to me and that I need to leave my job. So at the end of that school year, at the end of June, I stepped away from my job. It was really painful. I didn't want to lay it down. I at times didn't want to be obedient. I just kind of wanted to do things on my own, but I knew that he had called me to do something different. So I finished my job at the end of June, went to visit my parents, who I love and have a really close relationship with, right after that. And my mom had this kind of freak accident thing. She was helping my dad cut down a tree, got some sawdust in her eyes. When she moved her head up, she hurt her neck. So she ended up going to see a chiropractor because her neck was kind of out of whack. And when they did an x-ray, they found that my mom had lung cancer. And so it was so out of the blue. And the story is longer, and we don't have time for it right now, but it was so out of the blue. And basically, at that doctor's appointment, we just heard him say, she has like 2 months. She could have like 2 months to live. And in that moment, it was like God said to me, Lori, I asked you to leave your job because I have a bigger job for you. I have something that is more important that I want you to do, and I want you to spend your time with. So I was able to spend time with my mom. My kids were able to have a chance just to get to know her better that they would not have had if I was working and trying to keep a lot of other things going in my life. And you know what? She didn't live 2 months. She lived 10 months. And I got to be there to the very, very end. I got to be there when she took her last breath. I got to be there when we were believing that something bigger or something else was going to still happen through this whole process. But in this, what I learned is that God has a perfect plan. And when things are really rough and we're not exactly sure how we're going to hang on, we kind of have to go back to what his word says. And this is one thing that my mom talked a lot about, and something that I have put in my life too, but especially at that time when I needed hope, when I needed to know that he was real and that there was a plan, and that I felt like I had laid everything down and this is what was happening, was really crazy. But in the Bible, in the book of Lamentations, in chapter 3, it says this. It says, yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait for him. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in him, to the one who seeks him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. And I think what I walked away with from that time, my anchor moment really, is when God asks us to be obedient, sometimes it doesn't make sense. But he has his bigger plan. And he has hope involved in that plan. He wants the very, very best for us. And he goes before us. And like it says, they are new every morning. His compassion never fail, new every morning. So I don't know what season you're going through right life. I don't know what God has asked you to be obedient to. I don't know if you're in the middle of something really hard, a storm that's going on around you. But what I want to leave you with is this, that he loves you, that he sees you, and that every day is a new day. Don't give up on today. There's going to be tomorrow. And as hard as it was to walk through that time with my mom, it changed my life. And it changed me to be such a different person than I was before that. And he proved to me that he was indeed faithful. So hang on. That's my anchor moment, one of my many anchor moments. But I'm really glad that you could share it with me. Have a great day, and signing off from my front porch.